Hello, everyone. Just hopping on here for Moonday Live. Give it a second to see if anyone else arrives. And just open up here by saying thank you so much for the grace. If you missed the live last week, it's because I was on vacation and had a lovely time out at the coast with my son and my partner. So now I'm back refreshed and ready. And I have had multiple people reach out with some curiosity about how to cultivate joy in their lives. Hello, I see someone has popped on Facebook, but it's not telling me who you are. If you want to let me know who you are, I would love to know. Um, who's here? Thank you for welcoming me back. Oh, Allie, thank you. Thank you. I should have known it was you. Well, you were one of the people who requested how to cultivate more joy in your life. So I'm glad that you're here, Allie. I'm so excited. Hello, Sherry. So nice to see you. I miss your face so much. So, I think today is the perfect day to riff on how do we cultivate joy in our lives because I am struggling with that today. So I have been working with this morning, and I would love to just share a little bit of my own personal process so that we can kind of flesh out this conversation. Uh, because first of all, I think joy is kind of misunderstood in our culture. I think it is a potent and powerful word and powerful experience that has kind of been diluted and watered down in our culture at this time and has gotten a little woven in with the love and light crowd and has a lot of sparkle thrown into it that is not actually part and parcel of what the experience of joy is. Now, that may not be a comfortable way to open this conversation, but it's my truth and it's here. So I'm curious how that lands for you. For me, joy does not equate to happiness, and it does not always equate to feeling good. Okay. For myself, joy is an experience of being with what is in radical acceptance and having the capacity to find the gold in any experience so that you can presence yourself in it, so that you can find the pieces that feel good in every experience, even if it's an experience that overall does not feel wonderful. And so the practice of cultivating joy then becomes a practice of honoring and accepting what is in your life without getting stuck in the mind trap of needing to name things as good and bad and right and wrong. So for me, sticking something in one of those limiting boxes is the first thing that robs me of the joy of it. If I have to define it, if I have to quantify it, if it gets wrapped up in morality in some way, it is no longer a joyful experience. For me, joy is rooted very much in the body. It's something that we all had access to as young children before it was trained out of us, before we became socialized, before we experienced our first major traumas. Joy was the ability to be in the moment, to feel our feelings as they come and go in and out without stickiness, without holding on to it, so that we are simply present in this now moment to what is. And so joy can hold a multitude of things. We can even be joyful even if we are in the midst of grief. right? Like true joy is presence to our lives. And I've experienced this a lot recently as I am supporting my youngest child in beginning to leave the nest. Like there is a bittersweetness that begins to enter our lives when we are uh, past our first few decades, right? I'm in the last half of my fourth decade. Like I'm in middle life and moving into my elderhood. And so the things that are joyful to me often also hold bittersweetness or have an edge of grief or an edge of other emotions beyond just happiness. And I feel that it is important to hold this nuanced definition of joy and this spectrum, this way of seeing and feeling and experiencing our lives without trying to chase that dragon of, oh, joy is bubbles and sparkles and everything going our way. And those things are great. Yeah, those things are joyful, sure. But it's not the only aspect of joy that is available to us. And if we are here on these journeys, in these bodies, in these lives, to have a rich and real human experience, then we're here to feel it all. And that entails joy also being expansive beyond just the things that feel 110% yummy and good, right? So, personal story, here we are, Lionsgate Week. This is a super potent day. I have been working so hard. Myself and my team member, Abba, have been working so hard to create this brand new website and this brand new offering that I'm putting out this week. Just put in months of work. And today we had an experience where we recognize there's been a mistake and things are not aligning. The tech is not just doing what it wants, what I want it to do. And I felt myself getting angry and I felt myself getting really frustrated and agitated in a way that I haven't felt in a really long time. You know, there's a story playing in my brain of how important this thing is and how I want it to be on this amazing cosmic timeline, all of the preferences, all of the things. And I had to end my meeting this morning so that I could go and work my practices, so I could cultivate joy in this process of building my business, even if it is not moving at the speed or timeline that I prefer, even if it is not meeting what I really desperately wanted, which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right? But I had some attachments that I hadn't yet worked out for myself. And so, what did cultivating joy look like for me? Well, first, it looked like me really feeling my anger and going into my room and expressing the anger so that I could get that activated energy out of my body, right? Like, this is something that most people don't talk about. You should just, it is, it is spoken about in these spaces that you just should turn on the positive affirmations and turn on the gratitude and focus on the good, and that's all well and lovely and part of it, but I was angry. If I don't deal with that anger in this now moment, then that just gets stuck in my physical container somewhere. That's just an emotion, which is energy in motion that isn't given the ability to exit my body if I don't express it. So, first step in cultivating joy is to first come into connection with the actual emotions that you're having and that you're experiencing and giving them space to fucking move. You can't cultivate joy if you are not willing to also touch and cultivate and experience all the other feelings as well. That's bypassing, spiritual bypassing, and it's toxic positivity. So if your desire is to cultivate true, lasting joy and the ability to connect to your joy, even in the midst of challenging times, then we first start to get really, really comfortable with all the feelings, even the ones that we don't prefer, even the ones that we are unskillful at this moment in experiencing and expressing. So that might be for you anger, it might be grief, it might be despair, disappointment, vulnerability, whatever. If you wish to invite more joy into your life, I invite you to hold the intention of inviting all your feelings into your life. So that was step one in my process. Then step two in my process was regulating my body and coming back into a level of homeostasis where I could then begin to look for the joy in this experience. And so for me, this looked like taking a shower, brushing, skin brushing, body oiling. I did some mirror work, talking to myself, helping myself move through this experience, put on some red lipstick. One of my mentors calls it pussifying, like getting into my body and feeling good in my body, feeling juicy, feeling beautiful, just aligning myself to that after I experienced what was present. And then I could get to the space where I could look at the experience from this morning and see, oh, this really is a joyful experience. I'm getting to experience what conflict feels like in my team and how do I deal with that as the CEO of my business. I got to experience the frustration of a dream getting so close to fruition and feel inside of myself how committed I am to this dream, how committed I am to making this thing happen. And that's yummy. It is so yummy and joyful to feel commitment in my body. It is so joyful to be uh, in motion on a mission towards a creation of my own design. There is joy there. There is serious joy in the fact that we found this intense technical mistake for this project. And we found it prior to launching, and we found it with enough time that we can reach out to customer service and get the support that we need. There is a lot of joy that I have found, and I am still excavating from this experience this morning that made me really fucking angry. So that's just my most recent personal example. I'm sure you have examples of your own, and maybe you will find them more now that we've had this conversation together. But yes, the seeds that I want to begin this cultivating joy conversation, the ones that I want to really plant is that joy is seen as something sparklier than it actually is. Joy is actually pleasure and full radical acceptance of what is. Joy is an experience, mind, body, heart, and soul, and it can be had even in the midst of challenging or difficult times if we're willing to let go of the stories that we have around what joy means. And we, each of us individually, are the owners of our joy. Like we are the ones that cultivate joy for ourselves. Every single one of us knew how to have and experience joy when we were young, when we were small children, because we knew how to feel our feelings in real time and get them out of the body before they became stagnant and created nervous system issues. We all have this skill. I promise you have this skill. It is in your bones because you're a human animal and you were born with this skill. So I hope that you can feel that, that you can sense and trust that in yourself, that you do know how to cultivate joy. It's not a matter of learning something that you don't know, it is simply a matter of removing the lenses and the masks that you have been indoctrinated with, that you have taken on perhaps unconsciously, that you have. Uh, Braided into the matrix of your being, often without your consent, right? Like most of this programming happens before the age of 7. So you may or may not even be conscious and aware of this programming operating in the back of your brain. So there's nothing that you have to do. It is a matter of unlearning. It is a matter of unraveling your domestication. It's simply a matter of coming back in deeper and deeper into your truth with fewer stories around your experience. It's a different way of learning how to presence yourself in this moment, right? Like you can meditate, it's fine. That works. You can do embodiment practices. You can feel your feelings. Like that is also a way to come into presence in this moment. And as you become more skillful in feeling your feelings in real time, they will be able to move through your physical container more quickly so that you can reside in longer expanses of joy, which is nothing more than full presence and acceptance of what is, and learning how to orient or attune yourself to the pleasure that is always present in your daily life, right? So, thank you, Toby. I like it too. So, one of my favorite things to say is that life is sunshine and shit in equal measure. We are quantum beings. We are in this matrix that we've been told operates on a binary, but it's actually this spectrum of experiences. And we tend to focus on the extremes because our brain, our animal brain, the biology of our brain is oriented to look for black and white. It's oriented to look for safety and non safety. It's oriented towards comparison because as animals, that keeps us safe, right? It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It is the nature of our biology. Woohoo! Yay! We have this information. We're talking a lot nowadays about trauma and triggers and all of the things, and it's awesome. It's wonderful. Once you begin to recognize that this is the baseline of the way your brain works, you can then begin to learn the skills of recognizing and catching your brain when it starts to take you down those rabbit holes of black and white, when it starts to focus and base all of your experiences through a particular lens, which then orients you to seeing your life only in a certain way. And so, for myself, to live a life where we are cultivating joy is living a life while looking through the lens of accepting everything that is as being neither good nor bad. It's neither right nor wrong. I often like to lean into the word bittersweet, right? Like every experience that we have is kind of bittersweet, you know? Whether it is, whether the bitter comes because you know it's going to end, or whether the bitter comes because it doesn't turn out exactly the way you prefer. Like life isn't all love and light and perfect. Life has nuance, experience has nuance, and so does joy. Joy has nuance too. It is a spectrum, and to cultivate joy means to find within yourself that place of resonance where you can connect to each moment in your life, see the sunshine and the shit, and then choose to feel it all. You choose to feel it all, to move through the shitty parts and come back into that sunshine. I love that we're in the Lionsgate portal right now and we're talking about sunshine and shit, because that feels to me like what is really alive in this now moment is that collectively there is a lot of light being shined on this particular portal and the ways in which we individually might be holding ourselves back from stepping fully into life again. That's what's been coming up a lot for a lot of my clients and what I'm sensing in the field, right? Like, first of all, how many of us have actually felt our feelings completely with regards to the trauma that we have experienced collectively over the last few years? I'm sensing that a lot of us haven't really felt our feelings. We haven't really talked about our feelings. I'm seeing a lot of mental health struggles occurring socially with my clients in the news, right? Like there has been a lot of shit that we have moved through and not necessarily a lot of social support in feeling our feelings around it, in getting that emotional energy to move out of the body, in addressing the ways in which we may have felt betrayed by our communities, by our friend groups, the ways in which our circles have been dismantled or displaced, and how they maybe have not yet worked the puzzle pieces back together. We're not really talking about the unspoken, unconscious fear of what happens in the winter, how our bodies sense and know that life got changed really quickly without our consent, maybe, and how that can happen. And there is now this presence of non safety in the field collectively, and we aren't addressing that. We are not leaning back into community, which is an important and valuable and necessary piece of cultivating joy, is being in connection, being in community, and allowing ourselves to be held and witnessed and seen. And I understand, it makes so much sense. We went through this global pandemic experience where we were kind of told to be afraid of one another. We were actively told that we should be afraid of other human beings because of this disease. And there's no judgment, right? Like, yeah, there was a lot of fear going around. Yes, we could get sick from one another, just like every other transmissible disease. But this one in particular came with a lot of energy that has been infused into the field between all of us. And we all have feelings about it. We all have feelings that have come up if we had dissonance in our families around subjects that occurred in the last couple of years. We've all perhaps created distance or lost friendships or work relationships or actual work. I mean, so much trauma has occurred in the last 2.5 years. And if we collectively and individually wish to begin cultivating more joy for ourselves, we first have to be willing to feel the feelings that have been suppressed or minimized and allow them to flow and have these conversations and be willing to be in the discomfort of them so that we can understand one another and ourselves better. So we can understand and integrate and digest the experience and get it out of our nervous systems so that there is space to cultivate joy, so that there is space for this next new spiral of our lives to come through. That's what I'm really sensing with this Lionsgate portal. Like, that's where the light is being shown for me, is the necessity for communities and circles to begin giving each other space to digest and process everything that we have moved through as a collective. And it's really important that we do this as close to real time as possible, right? Like we are living in history right now. Books will be written, copious amounts of books will be written around what we all just lived through in the last 2.5 years. And how amazing would it be for consciousness and for us individually and for our people if we could practice digesting and integrating these experiences in real time instead of holding on to them and pushing them down and then wondering why our bodies hurt or wondering why we go into depression or anxiety and then going through years of therapy later on to come to the knowing that, oh, we've all been traumatized as we went through this experience and our sovereignty was questioned. And we had to feel what it felt like to have massive change occur, perhaps without our consent externally. Hmm. Whew. That transmission became a lot larger than I expected it to be with regards to cultivating joy. Thank you, Toby. I appreciate you. I believe I saw a question earlier. What about life without joy? Loop Digger, are you still on here? If you'd like to expand on that question, I would love to know. Um, are you asking what to do if your life is without joy entirely? Or what exactly are you asking with that question? I would love to know. Yeah. Mm. Yes, that feels like the major transmission for this moment is for each of us individually. We've been given the invitation to actively search out within ourselves the places where we are not allowing ourselves to feel what is present in this now moment, where we're not allowing ourselves to process. I know I've seen in some of my friend groups where we are so hungry to just get on with life and to get back to some semblance of normal that we do not give ourselves or one another space to be with the grief of what was, to be with the feelings that have accumulated over the last few years. And that's a bummer. That's really sad. Because if we actually want to get to the other side of this bridge, if we want to get to the space of joy, of having more joyful moments, we got to clear this shit out of the system individually and collectively. We can't just, one of my teachers says, you can't just put frosting on a pile of shit and expect it to be edible, right? Like, we can't keep piling on the positive affirmations and, uh, yes, everything's back to normal if we don't actually deal with what is lying underneath. That's the beauty of the shadow. It's the beauty of the shadow work. Like, it's never going to go away. The lessons that are available to us in those dark periods of our lives don't just magically go away. They lie in wait for us to digest them so that we can actually retrieve the gold from the experience and expand our capacity to be in this beautiful life that we are in. And so, for all of us, whatever trauma, whatever heaviness, whatever feelings have accumulated in the last few years, they're still there until we're willing to feel them. Feeling is healing. Like, you got to be with it. And that's all. You just got to be with it. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to be. Our feelings are here to give us data and information about where our boundaries live, about our value system. They give us information about our hopes and fears and desires, and you can be with them, and they don't have to run the show. We just get to be with them, we get to move them through, and then we get to experience the spaciousness that is available for us at the end, on the other side of that bridge. So, if you are ready to cultivate more joy in your life, if you are ready to have a bigger expanse of feelings, to have greater depth of capacity, and what I mean by that is if you desire the ability to sit with more of your feelings without having them overwhelm you or flood you or throw you immediately into a trauma response, then this is the work that is invited to begin feeling your feelings, to begin feeling them as close to real time as possible, to begin practicing vulnerability and sharing your feelings with other humans or in the mirror or on voice recordings or in a journal, just in a way where it can be actively witnessed either by yourself or another human being. This is truly where magic happens, where the juice of healing resides, when we start allowing ourselves to be seen and visible in our humanity. Then we get to actively feel both the sunshine and the shit and start to rewire our brains and orient the lens so that we are seeing the joy more and more instead of the extremes that we are trying to avoid. So, that feels like the transmission for today. I hope that it serves you so well. And I would like to invite you next Tuesday if you are in Portland, or if you would like to watch it live on this Instagram. I will be speaking at Earthspace PDX for Conscious Growth, 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 16th. The topic of the speaker series is leaning into mystery, empowering ourselves through chaotic times. And it's going to be really, really juicy. There will be a nutritious meal and yummy beverages and an opportunity to socialize and connect. And I would love to see you there. So if you have time and space, it's more details in my bio on my link tree. And if you're on my newsletter, you'll be getting more information as well. I thank you so much, Sherry. I hope to see you soon as well. So if this transmission serves you, if you're really feeling the pulse of this experience today, and if you would like to share some space in real life and step out of internet land, I invite you to come share some space with me next Tuesday, August 16th. It's going to be a lovely presentation. I'm a little excited, nervous, Twitter-pated, all the things, definitely pushing my own edges to share in such an intimate and vulnerable way. And I would be honored to share that intimacy with each one of you. So until next Moonday, take good care. I hope that you have everything that you need. And I will tune in again with you soon. Bye for now.